if you're familiar with the law of attraction, if you've been practicing doing affirmations, maybe vision boards, and through the years you see results, but you are not in your life where you want to be. Well, there can be a number of reasons for that, and part of that can be, as I've talked about this week, that you may not be following the path that your soul chose for you in this lifetime. So although you may be getting little incremental shifts and boosts, you are not getting the results in your life that you ultimately want because you are not yet on your path. It goes to say that the next thing that I want to talk a little bit about is astrology and how to look at your astrology chart. One thing I know from studying astrology for some years now, the first number of years it just looked like a bunch of symbols to me that on a piece of paper that I didn't understand. There is layer upon layer upon layer in astrology, and it is very complex, and you can learn for decades, and there is still more to learn in astrology. So for those of us that have not studied our astrology chart and not familiar with reading the astrology chart, let's just look at the basics of the astrology chart. Please forgive my primitive drawing. So in the astrology chart, a round circle cut into 12 pieces of pie. I was going to say even pieces, but they're even only if you do equal house systems, but let's not talk about that. So we're cut into 12 houses, and each house represents a different part of our life. Each of the 12 houses play a different part of our life. The bottom 6 are more personal. It is about our identity through our daily habits. And then the top 6 houses are more outward. I was going to say opposing, but opposite our first house of identity is our 7th house of partnerships with others. And our 2nd house of assets and what we value is opposing our 8th house of life, death, sex, taxes, and other people's money. So the blank astrology chart in and of itself is not actually blank. Every part of it is ruled by planet and a house that the planet rules. Then you lay your natal chart on top of this, where the planets were when you were born. And that adds an entire layer of nuance onto this chart that is already established. So this is the basic template. Then your birth chart goes on top of it. And then let's just today talk about the 3rd layer. And the 3rd layer, if you looked for the transits, that is where the current planets are transiting in the sky. And they would show on the outside of the circle if you were looking at a chart with transits. So the transits then impact your natal chart, which is laid on the template. And we haven't even looked or thought about how the planets and where they lay in your chart. We haven't even talked about how that impacts the complexity of every aspect in your chart. So if you've ever read an astrology chart and, you know, an astrology reading on like the newspaper or something, and you read your sun sign, oh, I'm a Sagittarius, and it has nothing to do with what's going on in your life, because our charts are way more complex than just that. So this is just the very, very basics of entering the idea of astrology, which I wish somebody kind of had explained to me in the beginning to try and understand the many complexities. The fourth part of the basics that I hadn't thought about saying, because I said I hadn't talked about the planets yet, it's called the aspects, and it's how the planets angle each other. They're called aspects if they're conjunct, or if they're square, if they're sextile or inconjunct. So whether they are working positively together or whether they are giving challenges for growth. Air and fire take us higher, water and earth make us grow. So water and earth will give us challenges. Are our elements balanced? We haven't even looked at a chart, and it is already complex. So I think that is where I'm going to leave that off today and just draw a couple cards and see what the cards have to say. I can't tell you how much I love those little flowers. Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, thanks. I love them. All right, what is the message for today, please? What is today? August 20th, tomorrow. Your tomorrow, my tomorrow today. What do you got for us today? What is our number one message today in knowing our chart? Well, the Three of Rods, it will help us move into action. I was going to talk about the North Node today, because the North Node is what our spirit came to do in this lifetime. And the Three of Wands is the card of us stepping into our purpose. Not traditionally, of course, but the Ace of Pentacles says this is a time for us to step into the new world, to recognize that this is a new beginning on this planet in our earth life. And we are moving this beginning forward through our own actions in stepping into our purpose. And that is why we need to know our charts. The Hierophant on the bottom, and there went the whole deck. The Hierophant on the bottom says we need to step into our purpose and our teaching. The Knight of Pentacles warns, though, take your time, be methodical, step by step. The Pentacles, again, it's about the physical. So where do you step into your purpose within your active physical life? And at the same time, Temperance, create through alchemy, to connect to our highest self, to all we are through the breath, to be intentional in Temperance is alchemy, in creating the reality in the new physical world that we want to step into. You'd think I'd get that camera. So that's a message. That's a message. That is why we should get to know the blueprint that was planned by the higher us before we came into this existence. That's 15 days. I know it's kind of a lot. I'm thinking I might take a week off, but we'll see. Maybe it'll be the week after next.